Thank you, Lori. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to the committee members for selecting me as the 2026 Pillar of the Community. And thank you for the folks that put together the video, including all the guys from Spectrum. And it's so humbling, and I'm so honored to receive this award. And a shout out to the 13 previous winners, all who have accomplished a lot in this community, all who have given back. So it's good to be part of that club. So thank you. I want to introduce, before I get started, I want to introduce four people in this room that came from quite a ways to this event. One is Chris and Mary Domes. You don't hold your applause, but Chris and Mary Domes flew in from Philadelphia. And Chris is the president of Newman University in Philadelphia. And he wrote the foreword for our book. His wife, Mary, when touring our office, said, Jim, 6 years ago, she said, Jim, you should write a book. Okay? The next one is our daughter, Cindy. Cindy flew in from Fort Worth, Texas. She is a district sales manager for Charles Schwab and TD Ameritrade, and has been with them for 23 years. 19 years ago, Cindy was in our living room and she says, Dad, you got to be doing wealth management. And after a couple of years, I finally said yes. Today, a third of our income comes from wealth management. Cindy, thank you. And the last one is David Griffith in the back. David Griffith drove in from Springfield, Illinois. And he's sitting, table number 29. Where are you? 29. Okay, there. And he's sitting with my high school classmates. You know, you'll do anything to fill this room. We get some high school classmates here. Those, if you look at that table back there, they were all in the top 10 in our class, Bill in high school. And they have to thank guys like me for them being able to be in the top 10. 21 years ago, my son John and I attended our first Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting in Omaha, Nebraska. And through the years, we've had just about all the team members from Spectrum attend that conference. And also a few of our customers that are in the room. And when we look at going to the Berkshire meeting, what do we learn from that? We listened to, over the years, we've listened to 700 questions that were asked of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And if you look at 700 questions, the top 150 questions, answers to those questions are in our book. But if you look at the top 2 questions, the first question is, Mr. Buffett, what investment advice do we give our children? And he doesn't say buy the S&P, and he doesn't say buy Berkshire Hathaway. He said, tell them to marry well. That's such good advice. And Charlie Munger says, and tell them to marry up. And hopefully they can find somebody that's willing to marry down. So, 2 people that would love to be here today, and as my friend Bob Steidel said, you know what, Jim, they are in the room today. This is Dominic and Josephine. It's my mother and dad. The story of Dominic is he was asked to leave the house at 14 years old, just before the Depression. Can you imagine that in your lifetime, leaving the house at 14 and saying, I'm going to make it on my own? So he did. So where did he go? He went from farm to farm as a hired man. And his last farm was a fellow by the name of Henry Rogo that had a farm right down the road from my mother. He bought a Model T Ford. Now you guys, some summers, hopefully you can forgive me. But it was a Model T Ford. And he drove by my mother's house and he got her attention. That, and he was a good dancer. And he was a straight A student in grade school, even though he had to leave in 8th grade. And my mother fell in love with him, and they got married, and my mother's father owned the farm. Now it wasn't a big farm, but what it did is it gave him direction so that he could move on. And when you look, and when my mother and dad got married, they went home, not to a fancy honeymoon, they went home to no electricity. No plumbing, no running water. That's how they started. Incredibly humble. And they got electricity a year later in the 1936 Rural Electrification Act. But they also just started incredibly humble. They really did. And when you look at Josephine was big on education, so big on education that they raised 5 sons and a daughter, of which 5 of them are in this room today, and 44 descendants of Dominic and Josephine have a college education. I think that's remarkable for somebody that started out walking down the road at 14. And all of us in our family have owned our own businesses. And some of those businesses are going on to the 2nd generation, which is so cool. My mother was a cheerleader. She was everyone's cheerleader. And my cousin John's in this room, and I'll never forget what John said to me. We were standing at my mother's coffin, and my cousin John says, when I would visit your mother and walk up her driveway, I felt better about myself walking out of her driveway than before I walked in. It's the finest compliment you could ever give to another human being. She was that dynamic. Part of our career with my brothers and I, grew up on a farm in Red Granite, Wisconsin, with milk 40 cows. We all went to Oshkosh. My brother Rich became a plumber, and one of the things that helped us start these businesses is that none of us had to fight in Vietnam. And because we all joined the National Guard and enlisted reserve. And when you look at the National Guard, Vietnam is one of the few wars in the history of our country where the National Guard did not fight. In a comparison, on Omaha Beach on D-Day, World War II, half of the soldiers that charged Omaha Beach were from the National Guard, the 29th Division from Virginia. So we were really lucky to not have to go, but to honor those that did. We sponsored an honor flight for my classmate Bob McGregor. Bob McGregor was in 173rd Airborne, and he fought at Dak Tao, one of the most vicious battles of Vietnam. And we sponsored an honor flight for him with the help of Amy Luft. Amy, where are you? Amy, can you stand up? Amy Luft has worked with Stars and Stripes since 2009 and has been on 59 honor flights. Let's give Amy a hand. Let's have all the veterans in this room, please stand up. We want to honor your service. And that includes you, Linda Thompson. You stand up, Linda Thompson. Linda Thompson lost her son. The next slide is my first job. So I graduated from Oshkosh, majored in economics. This is my first job, Wayland Corporation, 1969. I was selling defined benefit plans to banks in Wisconsin, and a bunch of those bankers are in this room today that are still our customers after all these years. And the first year that I was a salesman for a company called Wayland Corporation, Do you know how much I sold? Nothing. Nothing. So after 1 year, my sales manager, why do we have a sales manager with only 2 salesmen? I don't know. My sales manager said, Jim's never going to make it in this business. We got to fire him. So the guy that hired me said, let me think about it. 2 weeks later, he fired the sales manager who kept me for 14 years. So how do you not sell anything and still keep your job? What was the secret sauce? I went to my boss and I said, I want to take the Dale Carnegie sales course. If you go into Warren Buffett's office, you'll see 2 things on his wall. You'll see a picture of his father and a certificate from the Dale Carnegie sales course. I would suggest to all of you that have a son or daughter that's going into business, when they graduate from college, buy them a Dale Carnegie sales course. It really helped me. So what did the course do? It taught me 3 things. 1 is the art of public speaking. 2 is the art of conversation. And 3 is the art of listening. The art of listening. You know, my wife Peggy thinks I should take the course over again. How are we doing so far? Let me know if you're getting bored. And the next slide is the River Club when we first started out in 2004. So this picture was taken 9 years after we started. So we started in 1995, but 9 years later, we've only got 5 people. It's not even 5 people, because one of them is my nephew Peter, Mary Jane's son, who went to Harvard, so he's just helping us for the summer. So it's actually 4. But there is a person that's missing in this picture that's really important to this company. It's my wife, Peggy. Peggy was a teacher for 39 years. And when you start a company, it's called cash flow. You don't have any cash flow. And so she provided cash flow and also provided health insurance. So that got us off the ground. That picture was taken in this room. And when I was, I'm thinking, where do we work back then? We worked in a company called FlexBand. I was a part owner in FlexBand. And so I worked in the back storage room of FlexBand to get the company off the ground. But the big thing about FlexBand is we moved from Milwaukee to Mequon. Where are you, Kent Smith? Kent, all right. So Kent Smith was the president of FlexBand, and he had the vision to move it to Mequon, and my, what a great move that was. In 2003, we hired my son John, and what a hire he has been. He's got a degree from UW La Crosse, a master's degree from DePaul, and we started using colors to communicate investing. In fact, when we started colors, Peg and I went on a honeymoon, and instead of going to a fancy island, we went to Fidelity Investments and to look at the color-coded chart. So Peggy says, "You want to do what?" But she bought into the whole idea. John took those colors and developed our color-coded system that we filed for a patent on in 2005. And in 2005, we went to the WICPA and showed Dennis Tomorsky, there you are, Dennis Tomorsky of WICPA, and Leroy Schmidt, and now Tammy Huffstead. And Leroy said, the colors are such a great idea, you need to be doing a seminar. So we started doing a seminar with the WICPA in 2005. This year is going to be our 21st year of doing that seminar on June 17th. So hopefully a lot of you can make it. We get about 300 people at that seminar. So, but it's really, the colors made us different, and they still do. So I want to thank, and then we built our building in 2012, and I want to thank Kathleen Schilling, Andrew Petzel, Tina Schwantes, and Tom Neiman. I don't know if Tom Neiman's in the room, but those 4 people were really big in in our growth. And then in 2018, Kati Pavone did the mural, and we did our 2nd floor in our building. And when I look at the book the book that we wrote, John and I wrote, along with Kati Pavone and Cassandra Thompson, who took Violet to the bathroom. But it took us 4 years to write the book. Somebody said, "Are you going to write another book?" I said, "No, I want to stay married." And writing a book is just overwhelming. But the book has done wonders for us. We've sold over 1,000 copies. We're going to be selling a book in the corner. And as Gary Vandenhavel says, "Jim, you're always selling." But we're selling the book for $35. We're going to this is John's idea. We're going to donate 100% of the proceeds of the book to the foundation. Half the money is going to the foundation. The other half is going to the honor flights. And we want to sell 250 copies to honor our 250 years of this country. And so before you leave, and a lot of you will say, "I don't want to buy a book. I already own a book." Buy it for the next generation. Buy it for Christmas presents. Leave a legacy behind. The next chart should be, okay, that's our team. Okay. The next chart is our Spectrum teams. So in 1995, we grew from 50 million to today we're at 4.67 billion. We're approaching 5 billion in assets. And we have 28 people in this picture. And in 2019, I no longer was president. Manuel Rosado is today our president. And our leadership team is Matt DeMett, Jonathan Marshall, and Manuel Rosado. Those 3 guys, along with our team, have doubled the company since I was not president. Maybe I should have retired sooner. And when Manuel took over, I said, "Manuel, I got one tip for you." He says, "What's that?" I says, "From now on in, you need to hire people that are smarter than me." You know what he said? "Ah, come on, Jim, we gotta set the bar higher than that." Even Ron's laughing at that one. That's pretty good. And when I look at it, and when I look at this picture, I think of our culture. Our culture is hire well, manage little, celebrate the wins, and as Chris would say, give back. Give back to the community. And we have set our company up to last for decades, not for generations, not for years. So, and we are well on our way. And we even have the next generation in the room, Maple and Violet. Before I leave the book, I want to mention my daughter-in-law, Laura. Half the book is about Warren Buffett. The other half is about 60 soldiers related to our employees. 20 of those soldiers are related to Laura, John's wife, Laura. Laura had 7 relatives that fought with George Washington. She had 6 relatives that fought with Ulysses Grant, and a bunch of other relatives that fought in World War II. She is a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and someday, Laura, I'm sure your daughters will be members of the Daughters of the American Revolution. Let's give Laura a hand. Nobody's sleeping yet. So before I wrap it up, there is a letter, hopefully that is on your table. And it's a letter, it's Warren Buffett's Thanksgiving letter. And what Warren, there's three messages in the letter. One is, if you make a mistake and if you're just downtrodden about your mistake, don't beat yourself up, learn from it, and move on. The other one is the resilience of America. Warren Buffett has watched his stock price go down 50% 3 times in 6 years. Did he sell? No. No, he was buying. But he always has a little cash to buy. So this is called the resilience of America. That word is on the cover of our book. And the last one is, if you want to live a better life, write your obituary and then live accordingly. So that's a good, my mother did that, so, and she was a wonderful woman. So I want to, you know, when you're kind of on a roll, you kind of don't want to sit down. But I got to sit down because you guys want to go. In more ways than one. And so to close, picture a 14-year-old boy 100 years ago this month. 100 years ago this month, leaving his home, walking down the road with a tear in his eye and a dream in his heart. Never dreaming that one of his sons would be selected as pillar of the community in one of the best towns in the state of Wisconsin. When you hear this story, a lot of you might say, what a country. I say, it's America. Thanks for coming.